The Manifestation of the Sons of God, Chapter 36, The Veil, and One Step Beyond. Reading from Ephesians 6, For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. We've been talking about the renewing of the mind, a shift of paradigms, and a redefining of what we believe. Another arena that has had a tremendous impact upon the ability of God's sons to see and to step out of the limitations of this age has been to understand that we have been living under a veil or canopy. In fact, the entire world lives under a veil or canopy. We're not talking about the veil of our flesh or what we perceive as the veil of separation existing between us and God's kingdom. We're speaking of a veil, or more accurately a canopy, that has existed over the face of the globe. Regardless of religion, race, or culture, it doesn't matter. We're talking about a canopy that has been upon this age as wielded by the powers of the satanic hosts. The underlying spirit behind the operation of the satanic hosts in this hour is a religious spirit. It is the spirit of Lucifer or Satan, a religious spirit that seeks to be as God, to emulate God, to manifest a facsimile of holiness. This very spirit has functioned as a canopy that has spread over the human race since the fall of Adam. We have seen the religious spirit in operation throughout the Scriptures and through so much of Christianity today. The religious spirit has many tentacles. If you look closely, you will see those tentacles in every aspect of life. The religious spirit is self-serving and judgmental. The religious spirit is the perfect channel for the unregenerated soul nature. The religious spirit seeks to stand before God, righteous in its own acts, righteous in its own heart, proud and arrogant. This religious spirit, which has rested as a blanket over mankind, is not just relegated to religions, for this canopy has known no boundaries. This spirit has created a conditioning that operates through the soul of man, and it's in no way limited to churches or organizations. This spirit is interwoven, like a tightly woven fabric, within the minds and hearts of all the people who live on the earth today. It is a veil or canopy that enshrouds what we know of reality on this dimension, creating a paradigm shared by all. Well, how in the world did we ever get here? And how do we get back to the place of freedom that's referred to in Romans? The freedom of the glory of the sons of God. Well, in 1 John 5, we know that we are of God and that the whole world lies in the power of the evil one. So what power is this? Well, look around you. There does not seem to be any way to equate the difference between the oppressed from the richly endowed. How does the entire world exist under the power of the evil one when you see such a dichotomy exist? Understand this control and leverage is not limited to governments, monies, or anything tangible. The control that is wielded exists on another plane entirely. We're speaking about that which is controlled and conditioned the way people think, regardless of race, color, or religion. All have existed under this control. All have existed under this canopy. This veil over mankind has been created, fostered, and nurtured for thousands of years by this satanic religious spirit. There's not one who has escaped its manipulations, and there's not one who is free from the entrenchment of the God of this age. And that is why we are admonished not to be a part of this age, and to step out of the restrictions and limitations of this age. People may believe that they're free. Perhaps they're fortunate enough to live in a country that may afford them some level of liberty. But they're in no way free from this canopy that has existed over the earth, which has created a conditioning, or, better yet, a view of reality. And no one has escaped this. The problem the sons of God face in becoming concerns their ability to see and rightly discern. As long as they're bonded or hemmed into a modality of thought or a paradigm of reality that is colored by the religious spirit, and they will never see the truth, and they will never change. To see truth, one must step out of that which has hindered the ability for truth to be seen. We must walk free from this age. To do so, we must walk free from the conditioning of our mind that has been created while living under the canopy of this religious spirit. The influence and conditioning of this spirit has, up to this point, successfully hindered and hamstrung the people of God from walking into the deep things of the Lord. We see it time and again as we speak to different ones. It's been very difficult for many to shed the deep conditioning of the religious spirit. As long as our view of reality is seen through the lens of the conditioning of this religious spirit, we will never come to the place of truly knowing, nor will we come to the place of seeing. It'll be like Mark 8, always seeing, but not quite understanding. Men always appearing as trees walking. Because of the inability to rightly discern the word of truth, change will always be elusive and unattainable. Until man is delivered out of the soul realm, until we fully see the regeneration of the mind as spoken of in Romans 8, there will exist some level of this oppression and limitation upon the believer. For it's born by the conditioning of the religious spirit, which operates through the soul. So let's briefly talk about this flood of deception flowing out of the mouth of the dragon during this season of time. If you remember in Revelations 12, and the serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman, so that he might cause her to be swept away with the flood. Well, what are we talking about here? We're talking about the level of communication and of energy that's going into the earth plane of illusion and deception. So much so that if it was possible, even the very elect would be deceived. There's such a flow of lies and deception and darkness going into the earth plane during this time. And the only counterinsurgency is the word God is speaking through his sons. We understand that God is bringing his sons into the plane of spirit. You're leaving a walk in the soul, and you're coming up higher into a walk in the spirit. And as you transition from a walk born of your soul to a walk of the spirit, you will become less and less prone to this deception that has filled and is still filling the earth. Mark 13, for false Christs and false prophets will arise and will show signs and wonders in order to lead astray if possible. How is deception fostered and propagated? We're told in the scriptures that we have come to a time of deep darkness, 2 Timothy 3, a time where even the elect could be deceived. And it's very simple how deception works. Galatians 5, this I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you will not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Deception operates through the realm of the soul. If you walk in the Spirit, you will not be deceived. Deception is created in the sensory realm of the soul by manipulation, and this is a jeopardy that God's people face. With the violence of faith, there is a demand rising from the sons to see the end of the reign of the soul-flesh nature within them. It is time for a judgment on the gods of this age and a subsequent releasing of God's sons. It is time for us to have a new set of eyes and a new set of ears, a total reprogramming of our mind. It is time to see differently. We're stepping outside of this canopy that has existed over the human race since the fall of Adam. The world may exist in darkness, but the sons of God will not. For many, this is a day of great darkness, for they're living beneath this canopy of illusion. But for the sons of God, it is a time of great light.